So the other day I had a conversation with Chris Duprey, and we were talking about the basics. I mean, the fundamentals, the things that you overlook all the time as a sales professional. And in this episode, he's going to break down 5 fundamental things, 5 things that top performing teams do, these habits that they do over and over and over and over again to make them have massive, amazing results. Oh, you're going to love this one. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And as I mentioned in the teaser, Chris Duprey from over at the folks at Impact is going to be guiding you. Their organization does a fabulous job to coach leaders, marketing, sales professionals, on how sales leaders, on how you could take over the ownership of your process from just farming this out to agencies. It's a fun episode. It's great insights. And I love the principles that he shared. Now, if you really like this stuff, go and connect with them on LinkedIn. Now, speaking about connecting, our sponsors have some stuff in the show notes, and I want you to connect with them as well because they have some offers. And if you're looking to improve your LinkedIn game, make sure to check out our LinkedIn program. Our next cohort starting soon, and I think you can find benefit from that. As we dive in, listen for those 5 things. Tell me if those things resonate with you. I mean, one of them that I'm a big fan of is the peer status. He goes over that a little bit there, and also another one is the role play. Well, I'm not going to give you all the answers. Go watch, listen to the episode. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Donald. Looking forward to our conversation.
It's great to have you back, and we're big fans of what you guys are doing. I think there's so many great gems that you and your folks have passed on to us over the years. So I expect nothing less than greatness from this episode as well.
Excellent.
All right, did I give
Excellent.
you there?
No, man. That's great. Like we're also huge fans of you and your team. So it's fun to hear that the crew at Impact is adding value to others.
I love it, man. Well, tell us a little bit more about Impact and what you do with the Impact folks team.
Yeah. So Impact. So the funny story is Impact started about 12, 13 years ago as a web design company. That's it. And over the course of the last 13 years, Bob Ruffalo, the founder and CEO, got on the wave of inbound marketing with HubSpot. Then he and Marcus Sheridan came together. And now that web design company is a coaching and training company focused on sales and marketing, coaching and training. And so what it was when it started, it isn't anymore. What it was when we were HubSpot's partner agency of the year a few years ago in 2017, 2018, not anymore. Now we are teaching folks how to bring the Ask You Answer to life in their organization, teaching them how to bring marketing in-house and really make marketing and sales come together as one so that you can grow your company the way that you want to, not have to rely on others.
You know, and I saw Marcus post last week, so this is going to date this episode, but we're back in January now, guys, when you're listening to this episode. But Marcus did a post last week, and it was on Chat GPT or whatnot. And the idea there was he's like, listen, agencies can use stuff like this and create these blog posts for you guys. And why is that needed? This is why the concept is on coaching leaders, coaching organizations to do their own stuff. And he was 100% right on that. And you guys were way ahead of the curve with stuff like this. So if you're an entrepreneur, listen to this, a sales leader, a marketing leader, anyone that's in sales enablement, I want you to check out the folks over at Impact and some of the cool things that they're doing that can help enable you all to be free from the agency.
Yeah, thanks.
Love it. Well, speaking about that, today we're going to be talking about pipeline, essentially prospecting. But the issue at hand is that so many people, so many sales professionals, I'm speaking for myself too, we find ourselves that it's taken more outreach, it's taken more activities to be able to gain those results. And what it comes back down to is that buyers, I feel, are just tired of the boring stuff. They're tired of the garbage, they're tired
Hmm.
of the crap, they're tired of the stuff that sound like everybody else because it doesn't provide any value to them. They need something that's a little bit more. And you have a five habits of great sales teams, and these it's not necessarily going to give us exact template of a what killer email to send that's going to get the appointment. It's going to be the habits that we should be doing to help us to refine ourselves, which goes in line with your the more the how you guys are framing yourself, empowering individuals. So if that's fair enough, I
Yeah.
am pumped. I'm excited to hear this. My team's ready to hear this, and we got it. This is obviously recorded, so we're all excited to hear this. Let's dive
Well,
in
here
and
we go.
maybe highlight those five things, and then we could take turns going into each of them
Yeah.
and give us a turnover of them.
Yeah. Now, listen, these are all simple. Nothing
Yeah.
is going to shock anybody as you hear it, but it's
Dang it, guys! He
what
has
we.
nothing new. He's not giving us the key, the secret sauce.
I love it. I love it. But here's the thing.
Yeah,
If you just do the basics, that's what makes the best, right?
amen.
So the real funny thing is, so I was a paratrooper, and I have friends that were in special forces, all this stuff. Everybody thinks we all did special things. We all just did the basics a lot and got
Mm.
really good at it. And so that's what my five habits are, right? And they're
All
real
right.
simple. Number one, you have to have a team mentality. Team mentality.
Okay.
The second, the best teams role play a lot. Number three, the best sales teams watch their sales calls. I know that's a crazy concept, but watching your own sales calls. The fourth thing is you actually gain peer status with your buyer. And the last is you proactively work on communication.
Okay, you got me for all of these, and I don't think we have enough time to spend on all of them like I would like because now you got me hooked.
There you
um,
go.
what is this? So let's talk about team mentality. Economy is
Yeah,
bad, things are going rough. It's bottom of the ninth, so to speak. We need money. You're telling me I need to come in as a team. I don't need to have just rely on my top performer to take the
yeah,
thing home. Why?
yeah. Why? Well, because everybody needs to grow together, right? If we only rely on the workhorses and leave everybody else, like you might squeak something out in the short term, but you're going
Yeah.
to burn out those top performers. All right. But everybody needs to grow together. Now, here's the thing, this is the craziest thing. Most sales teams are really good at sharing
Hmm.
wins.
Okay.
The best share their losses. And it's the most impactful, Donald, when it's the top sales dog who doesn't close the deal and he shows up at that team meeting or she shows up at that team meeting and says, "Hey, this is what happened. And here's why we didn't win.
Hmm.
Let's talk about it."
I like that. I think that so from my perspective, I think that gives a vulnerability because obviously everybody knows they're the top, but if they're willing to identify some of their challenges, it's like crap. If they're willing to do that, then I could share what I'm not working, that's not working well, and I can improve on that.
Yeah.
And then the other part to that too, beyond the vulnerability, it's fix it. Sometimes I think we put our head in the sand. We're like, oh, that call didn't work out, so then I'm gonna go back to these other ones did, so I'm gonna focus on that. But let's
Mhm.
identify where I think the best. You got to be willing to address the problems and be humble enough to recognize that you do have a problem. But you tell me
Yeah.
why. Why does it work so well in your case?
Well, so because the second that vulnerability happens, somebody else on the team shares that they had the same thing happen, and somebody else shares they've had the same thing happen. And it allows that team leader or just the team to go, "Hey, this is a moment where we can add process, where we can add the right piece of content, where we can have a topic to role play to make sure that we don't make these same mistakes over and over and over again." Give you an example. I have a client that has a consultative sales process, and they were wasting so much time at the beginning of calls.
Hmm.
and somebody had a call that didn't work, and they talked about all the time that they had wasted and how it took, an hour and 10 minutes. And a couple others chimed in, and so we said, all right, let's role play. How do we start a call and just get going? 2 weeks later, they reported back they each saved about 20 minutes per call moving
That's a lot of
forward,
time.
which opened up like an hour or two a day that they now could follow up with their with the people in their pipeline. They could do better what we call assignment selling, sending out content before next meetings, or just working their deals. But
Yeah.
if they had not had a team mentality, we wouldn't have known that was a problem per se, unless we had continued to go deeper into call recordings and stuff like that. We might have gotten there, but we got there organically and quickly because they were willing to share.
Yeah. So the principle is, again, it's go like you're saying, go beyond vulnerability, but it's this idea of us collectively recognizing as a unit we can be better, we can
Yeah.
improve, we can all
Yeah.
take feedback, because we're just going to be as strong as our weakest link. And I see your military stuff coming through this year a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's inevitable that this is, where my head goes, but
Yeah.
watching great sales teams
Yeah.
and not so great sales teams, it was clear to me that number one thing was when a sales team was just it was a group of individuals. When a
So
sales team was doing really good stuff, it was a team.
I'm listening to this podcast as an individual contributor. I like what you're sharing, but I'm going back into my team meeting right now. I'm driving to work, and in 20 minutes I'll be there. And I like this idea. How do I bring this up without looking like like I'm just a sucky salesperson? Because in my mind, I'm just, and maybe that's the narrative I'm telling myself. If I bring this up
Yeah.
and talk about my weakness, then it's just hard. I don't want my peers to look down on me and think that I'm
Yeah.
horrible at it. And or maybe if I'm a sales leader, how do I bring this up with my team and inspire them to do that? Because I could tell them and I can play this episode for them, but how do I inspire them to be willing and to be vulnerable to do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So first off, I would say sales leaders are the easiest. Like you just bring up that we're a team, we collectively have this goal, and you can actually set the conditions to make this normal, right? Like you as a leader can set the conditions to make this normal. If I'm an individual contributor, to me, this is your moment to step into a leadership role on that team. To say, and you can even say something like, "Hey, listen, I know what I'm going to say might sound a little crazy, but here's the deal. We're really good at sharing when we win, and that's cool. We can learn a little bit from that. But this just happened to me, and I know that it's happened to some of y'all because we've talked about it privately. So let's just bring this up and all get better together so that we all win."
Yeah, I like it. Um, One, putting yourself, creating. I'm putting some notes here. You're helping
Yeah.
yourself to become that leader, and then two, it's showing your, um, you know, it's just you taking action. And I think the one thing that would happen, and you alluded to this before, but by me being willing to have that conversation, other people, they're feeling the same way, and they're gonna have it as they're probably gonna say, "Well, crap, if you know Chris brought that up and Mandy brought that up. All right, yeah, I've seen that before. I've experienced that, and I see that
Yeah.
happen countless times. Nobody just wants to be the
Yeah.
first, but once it happens, then everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I've been there too."
And
You know what I mean?
B, the environment that we're in right now, Donald, allows people to take risks like this.
Hmm.
So you want to make a name for yourself as a leader in a sales organization in a time where, again, this is 4 months from now, right? But like in a time when Alphabet's laying people off and Spotify's laying people off, go help fix your sales team so that you're better by being vulnerable and bringing stuff up. You're going to continue to move through the ranks and have, you could take this time to
Yeah,
really to fortify your position.
I love it. Let's dive into the second one. role play a
Yeah.
lot because everybody's
Woo!
like, "Come on, Chris, Donald.
I
I
know.
know we're supposed to
I
role
know.
play. We do it once a year, but I don't want to do this every time.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
annoying. I'm much better in the real life scenario, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm
Of
much better
course
in
you
front of the
are.
client. I don't want to
Yeah.
do this creepy
Yeah.
role play."
Yeah. If only that were true, though. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. If only that were true. So here's a funny thing. So I talk for a living. I coach
Sure.
and I sell, I do all that stuff. And I meet weekly with Marcus Sheridan, Zach Basner, Will Schultz, and Chris Marr, and we role play for an hour.
Dang.
And it is and so some of you might not know some of those names. Go look them up on LinkedIn. Those are the best communicators in the world. Like they teach coaching, they coach, they sell, they speak, and we go in and it is like Thunderdome killing each other. Just sales situations, coaching situations, the real hard conversation. What's the worst thing that could happen in a coaching call? All right, let's role play it.
Dang.
And it's every week. And we do
Yeah.
it. So that like we're coaches and we think we're pretty good at this communicating and selling thing.
Yeah.
Right? But I also so I think then I go to we're talking about practice. Right? Like role playing is sales practice.
Yeah.
So unless you think you're better than LeBron or better than Tiger, by the way, both of them have multiple coaches, right? Multiple coaches that are making them do what?
The
Practice
basics. Yeah.
over and over and over again. And the basics over and over again. And so it blows my mind when sales folks say things like, I'm better in front of the client. This role playing thing is silly. Like, no, if you're a true professional, you want as many reps as you can get before you go and do the thing live.
Yeah. Why go
Right?
practice on my client in a couple of $1,000,000 or, a $10,000 deal when I could go practice with somebody for, 5 minutes or 15, 20 minutes in a team situation and, they
Yeah.
can rip it apart and guide me. Like I would much rather
Right.
to practice with the team member than to go waste money.
Because you can make a mistake and it's okay.
Yeah.
And again, we all learn from it. So here's the thing. The best teams do this at least weekly. They do it at least weekly as an organized thing. They've got, some people will have like scenario cards that you can just throw out almost like an improv thing. And it's just like, here's the situation, go.
Yeah.
Or you can take the call that's coming up, the big deal that you've got, the big meeting, set the whole scenario so everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and you go execute.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple things you got to remember, though. I highly recommend that you've got the sales rep that's doing the role play, and you have the role play partner. Role play partner has to understand who the buyer is or the scenario.
Yeah.
And then I highly recommend an observer. So this is sales leader usually. And you should be taking notes, observer. Everything you see, good and bad. So when I do these when I lead them, I have a notebook that is simply for role play notes.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we'll ever be able to see it, but
My
it's
goodness,
full.
bro. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, because as the sales coach internally that's helping my team do this stuff, I need to let them know, hey, you asked this. Here's a better way to ask it, or here's the follow-up question that you missed.
Yeah.
And this is why this happened. Right? But the idea is they role play a lot, and we understand that you cannot just go out and expect to win the Super Bowl. You put in a lot of hard work if you want to be on a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but if I'm trying to sell for my company, that's the level of effort that I want to be putting in.
I'm telling you. By the time this episode's done, we're gonna have this launch, there'll be a new Super Bowl title for 2023. So
That's
we'll hold
true.
off on that. This is gonna be cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
my prediction is the Eagles, but they're not my team. But
Yeah. Not mine either, but go birds, I guess, right?
there you go. So
Yeah.
we are right now we're doing the mentality. We're doing role play. Watch your own stuff. Talk about that.
Okay.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, so if you ever played any high school or college sports,
Yeah,
it was likely filmed.
yeah.
And my experience, I played football in high school.
There you go.
And we play on Friday or Saturday, right? And then Monday, we would sit in the locker room and watch a really bad football game. And I say that because listen, I was the running back for said football team. All right, we didn't win many games. Okay, so my Monday afternoons though were filled with me watching myself missing blocks or missing a hole or whatever, and then we go practice so that we would get better from it.
Yeah,
The same thing applies to sales, right? So now listen, super, 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 super hard if you physically are doing in-person sales conversations.
naturally. Yeah,
I would argue, though, that percentage is still probably really low.
hmm
Right? I would say that we are mainly on Zoom, Teams, or any of those collaboration platforms, right? Google Meets or something like that. But yet we don't want to record calls.
yeah,
Like, just hit record.
yeah,
Now, there's awesome tools like Gong and Chorus that you can have that built in. They teach they have all this great tech.
yeah,
But the idea is you, especially sales leaders, you don't know how your reps are doing and what they need to improve on unless you watch their calls
yeah,
or you can sit in with them. Sitting in with them, to me, I hate that.
yeah.
I sit back and I go, why don't you just sell then if you're going to sit there the whole time? But we got to watch these calls. And so when you do that, you learn what your ticks are.
hmm
You can actually see who talked for what percentage of time, right? And there's some really cool statistics out there that the best salespeople talk like 40% or less on
Yeah,
a sales call, right? Well, if you're not recording them, you don't know. Then you can record them, but if nobody watches them, you aren't learning from what you're doing.
yeah,
So just like we've got a role play every week, I argue that the best sales teams at least watch one of their own calls per month and one of their teammates' calls per month.
I love
Okay.
that.
Now, as a sales leader, Donald, I try to watch every sales call my company does.
Dang.
Now, that gets really hard. But one of the things that I do for myself is Chorus has a great iPhone app.
hmm
So when I'm at the gym on the elliptical, I've got my AirPods in and I'm listening to my team sell.
Yeah.
And so my team now gets these heavy breathing voice memos in Slack at
Hey, Donald.
5:30 in the
Slow down.
morning. Yeah, like, hey, you missed this. But again, so here's the thing though, right?
Oh my.
Do I know where my pipeline is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm not just looking at HubSpot or my CRM. I know the prospects. I know what we talked about. And my team knows that too. So we can have a better dialogue. Going back to team mentality,
hmm
when people know that others can watch their calls, we start asking questions like, hey, Donald, can you watch this call for me and see what you saw?
Yeah.
Hey, I've been working on not saying right after everything. Can you see if I did that?
Right.
And we can really improve. Yeah, there you go. Nicely done. Nicely done.
I love it.
If we're afraid to record our calls, we've got to fix that. Because you ever call your internet provider, do you even have an option to not be recorded?
This call is recorded for training purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we don't even think twice.
No.
So I don't know why we as salespeople at times are afraid to just start the call with it recording because, oh, by the way, all the new technology tells you as you get into a room that's being recorded, this call is being recorded.
Yeah.
The worst thing that happens is a prospect says, hey, I don't want to be recorded. You turn off the recording then.
There you go. And that's probably a slim chance again compared to the majority. Probably
Yeah.
like 1 out of 10.
It's less than that. Chorus
Oh
or
my
Gong, I
goodness.
forget which one, has data where it's only like 5% of people opt out of being recorded.
Amazing. Amazing. All right, let's do this last two because these are got me excited.
Yeah.
Peer status and then work, proactive work on communication.
Yeah. So you sort of led into this talking about prospecting.
Sure.
People don't want to be sold to, people don't want to be bothered, but people will take guidance and assistance when it adds value and it is legitimately from somebody that actually knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just, we just know that to be true. So one of the number one things that I've watched sales teams do to lose this is not ask great questions.
Yeah.
Or do discovery by scoping.
Mm.
So having that you know what I'm talking, like that laundry list of questions where they're not listening, like their answers are more like little checks, but it's all just helping them know what product, what size, versus understanding the buyer and asking provocative questions to make them think. Okay. One telltale sign is when you come onto a sales call and the sales rep's like, oh, Donald, thanks so much for making time for me. I know you're a busy guy. You've automatically gone from, you might have started at peer, you were way down here now because I just made you super special.
Subservient to you now.
Yeah. Now, peer status doesn't mean that you should be a jerk, but there's a reason you agree, whether you agreed to the sales call with me or you booked in from an inbound lead, you've got something going on in your business that you need help figuring out.
Yeah.
The second that I show up and I'm not like, all right, man, let's get into it. So what brought you to this conversation today? Or tell me about what's going on in your business. If we don't go right into real conversations, we seed that and then we give the power to the buyer. And here's the thing. If you get an actual decision maker on a call, like you get me on a sales call and you don't start by showing me that you're my equal and that you're going to guide me somewhere, I'm going to take control. I'm going to ask you everything I want to do. And then you're not going to have any idea how to forecast the op with Duprey.
Yeah.
Because I will continue to remain in control so that I can negotiate later.
You can't sell like that. It's gonna be a weak pipeline. So gotta
Right.
have that peer
And
status.
so and this is here is something that you will hear people that gain peer status say. They'll say, Donald, I don't know, we might not be a fit. So let's see if we are.
Yeah.
So you've automatically started it, or at some point you've said, I'm not needy. And you've got to earn, like it's a two-way street. Like we've got to both be a fit for each other for him to do this. Yeah. Yeah. And so the best do that. And the frankly not successful show up needy. It's clear as day. And they don't sell as much as the folks that come in more as challengers or more as equals, even if you're talking to C-suite folks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by peer status.
Well, if we were to the last little piece here is around the conversation, proactive conversation. Maybe we could, and I know this is probably going to cut us down. Let's say in a minute, teach us what that one is there.
Oh, the we work on communication?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just comes down to this. We obsess over how we communicate. So when something goes wrong, it's not the buyer. It means that I missed something. I missed a fear, worry, concern, or issue that I should have addressed beforehand. If somebody doesn't get the thing, I didn't ask the right questions. And so I'm going to go back and work with my team through role plays and call reviews and sit there and formulate the questions that are actually going to have a connection, that are actually going to get people to self-discovery. Because I can easily, you can fill in a form on my website, tell me that you need something, and you show up, I go, Donald, this is great. You want to do the Ask You Answer. Here's what it's like to do the Ask You Answer with impact. I'm not going to win that deal.
Yeah.
I need to talk to you about what are you trying to do. We need to have a whole conversation, and there's a series of decisions that you have to make that I can't even really put into your brain. I just have to be a good enough communicator to get you to realize the things that you need to understand. And there's one last piece that goes with this communication thing, and that is you can know what to say, but if you don't know how to deliver it, then you might as well be speaking a different language. Meaning, if our presence is not top-notch, if we don't captivate folks with our speech and our pace and our enunciation and our movement and with the questions we ask, we are no different than a robot.
Yeah.
And so we have to practice the delivery of the thing if we're going to get it right.
Nothing like practice, man. I agree with you so much on this. Chris, this was awesome. There's so many of these points that resonate. And I think for all of us, there's so many practical things that we could walk away with. If folks want to get in touch with you and learn a little bit more about impact, some of the great things you guys are doing, what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
So I would connect with me on LinkedIn, Chris Duprey, and connect with me there, or you can go to impactplus.com and check out what the team at Impact is doing. And if you're out on the road and you get to see Marcus Sheridan speak, go up and talk to him because he will talk to you.
Love it. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. And big fan of Marcus, big fan of what you guys are doing. I say that again, guys. And I highly recommend you all stay connected with these folks. Only bring on the best of the best. And these are some of the great people that I look up to. So thank you again for coming on the show. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Donald.
That was Chris Duprey. If you want to go ahead and connect with Chris, you can find all of his information in the show notes. Check out Impact and some of the impact they're having on the sales and marketing world. Tell them that you heard about them here on the Sales Evangelist podcast. And if this is your first time listening to our podcast, you loved it so much, please go ahead and leave us a rating and review. Also, please go ahead and tell someone else about the show so they can find benefit from it. Take it and drop in your team Slack or a community you're part of and tell them, check out this episode by the Sales Evangelist. And let's see if we can have some help some folks around the world to improve their sales game. My mission this year is to help 100,000 sales professionals directly and indirectly through our training and through our podcast and the free content we give out. Now, we're probably a little low on that number, but I feel that's definitely doable. It's going to stretch us a little bit, but 100,000 sales reps that we want to have impact with. Help us to be able to do that, get the message out, get me on a stage or have me come speak to your team or something like that. Anyways, as always, my goal here is to help you to build pipe and convert a higher percentage of that sales pipeline. And we're all dedicated towards helping you to achieve that success. I want you to raise your level of thinking, go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.